Hey, today's goals are to learn the importance of the color scheme and how to find color measures in Photoshop. So I have this assignment shared with you. If you were absent color practice. If you're here, then you're going to find your team member who has it. They will share it with you, and you'll do the one marked by your card. If you're absent, you'll do the one marked by your name. Okay. So, for example, let's say I'm going to start this. Add 6 variations of the same picture to this slide, one representing each word defined. So the first word is hue. So I need to find a picture that has a color in it. So let's just bear. I'm going to do a bear this time. Now I want to narrow it by color. So I want to show you a nice cool way to do that. In Chrome, just click Tools. I want a blue bear, so I'm going to do blue. I actually want the bear to be blue, so I'm just going to keep on searching until I find one where the bear is blue. Here's a blue bear. Okay. I'm going to right-click on that, Save Image As. It's going to save as a WebP format, so that's not something Photoshop can read, so instead I'll just take a screenshot of it. Okay. Screenshot, Shift-Command-4. It's going to go to my desktop, and ta-da, there it is. The first thing is to put it in by the hue. So this one's going to be called Example. Okay, so I'm now going to drag this in, and that's a hue. What hue is that is the next question. I got to use Photoshop to figure out what exact hue. Here are the ways that you're going to tell me the hue. You're going to tell me the HSB, the RGB, the CMYK, the Pantone. Also, web-safe colors is something you should know about, but we'll look at all that. So in Photoshop, I am now going to open that photo. So I'm going to, was it on my desktop? Screenshot. Okay, so here it is, and I am going to measure this up, and I'm looking for the eyedroplet tool. There it is. I'm clicking here, and that selected the color. Now I got to figure out what color that is. So if I select that, now I see HSB, RGB, CMYK. Those are all the values. If I change any of these numbers, it's going to change all the rest. Now it's a whole different shade. It measures HSB like that, it measures RGB like that, it measures CMYK like that. Can I Command Z? I can. Okay. This is the hexadecimal number. I want you to know about that because that's just the easiest way to reference a number. And if you're ever developing stuff on a web page and you want something to be a precise color, know the hexadecimal number. The website is going to be able to read that in the HTML. Anyway, what I want you to type on this page is HSB, so I got 187, 30, 99. RGB, 177, 244, 252. CMYK, notice CMYK does percents. 32, 0, 6, 0. And the Pantone color, that one's kind of hidden. Let me lower this so I can see all my data. Okay, the Pantone color is under Color Libraries, and it's the one selected. So it's Pantone 318C. And hopefully you remember that Pantone is a color matching system. So it can tell you this is a color that most like print and computers can read. It's like a crossover color. The only other color you need to know about is web-safe colors. I shouldn't have left that. Let's go back in. If I click only web colors, these are the web-safe colors. That doesn't mean that you can only use these colors if you're using the web, but if you want to ensure that all these colors transfer over between browsers, these are the colors you should stick with. So you can see that going to only web-safe colors changed my hexadecimal. It changed my values a little bit. So it's good to know if you're doing something on the web, you want it to be consistent, you care so much about color, go to only web colors. And if you want to cross over some things, use the Pantone color matching system. And if you want to just always know what exact color, instead of logging all of this stuff, just know your hexadecimal number. Okay. Now we need to make versions of these things. So we got the hue. We need to make the tone. And notice making a tone adds gray, making a tint adds white, making a shade adds black. So we're actually going to do these all the same way. Take a minute to think about how would we do this with layers in Photoshop. Does that help you any? We need a layer of gray. So to add a layer of gray, you're going to go to this button and add a solid color. Right now it's blue. I'm just going to change that to gray. I added a layer of gray, but that didn't add gray to my color or my image, did it? So how do I make it to where I can see both of these at the same time? There are two ways to do that. One is changing the blend mode. That uses presets, and so it doesn't give you much control. The way I'd advise for this assignment is just change the opacity. Make it a little bit dimmer, like 50%. Now we've added gray to that color. Take a screenshot of that. You're going to put it in the document. Okay. Now we need to add white. So we have to do this all over again, don't we? No, we can just modify what we already have. Let's just double click this, and instead of gray, now we have white. We've added white. Now I'll take a screenshot, Shift-Command-4. And there's my white. Now we need to do black. So go back to the Layers panel, double click, change to black. Notice all black, the hexadecimal is all zeros. There's no RGB in all black. In all white, there would be no RGB in CMYK. Well, no CMYK. Okay. Anyway, Shift-Command-4. Now I've got my variations of all these, so I can go ahead and take them from my desktop. Let's see, that was my original. This is my added gray, so that's my tone. So working with these gives you a little bit more knowledge in Photoshop and a little bit more work with it to remember the difference. This one is adding white, so that's my tint. And then this one is my shade, adding black. A lot of times people say their favorite colors are white and black. Artists would get annoyed by that and say, white and black aren't colors, they're shades. Well, mainly black in this instance looks like a shade. White would look like the tint because adding white makes it a tint of something. Okay. Now we need to affect the value. There's no setting for value here, but I will give you a hint, and the book says this. HSB, hue, saturation, brightness, is sometimes abbreviated HSV, hue, saturation, value. So value really means brightness. So we need to get rid of this layer. We aren't using that anymore. We're going to add another adjustment layer. This time it's going to be the brightness contrast one. And you can take the brightness all the way up, or you can pull it all the way down. Doesn't matter, you're affecting the brightness. Okay, Shift-Command-4, screenshot. Okay, so we've affected the brightness. Next is the saturation. So there's an adjustment layer for that as well. Let's just make sure I'm not, yeah, I added that layer. Let's get rid of that. Okay, adjustment layer now for hue, saturation. Okay, so if I want to desaturate it, that makes it black and white. I take all the saturation out of the picture. So now I have a black and white picture. Or I can ultra saturate it and now it's full of color. So I'm going to go with ultra saturation because that's more interesting to look at to me. Screenshot it. Go get my last two screenshots. That's the brightness / value. And this is saturation. So now you're done with that. The last step is see if you can find teams or logos that use these color relationships that we've talked about in the past. So we got split complementary, we've got complementary colors, we've got triadic colors, and analogous. When you find one that does that, put it on the image in the slide. So let me show you my example. I think it's in the master. Yeah, it's in the master. Okay. I just looked up team logos, and since I'm familiar with football teams, I looked up sports team logos. Oh, shoot, I cannot find it. Did I put it in here? Okay, so here's the color wheel. So if I look up sports teams logos, let's see what we got here. Orlando Magic, that's a faint blue. It doesn't have any dark, so that's not a color combo. But the New York Knicks, I got orange and blue. I'm going to go ahead and copy that image. Orange and blue. Are those complementary colors? Orange and blue. Yeah, they're complementary. They're right across from each other on the color wheel. So I'm going to paste this in over the complementary colors. And for some reason it got the other two teams. So I'm going to crop that out. There we go. New York Knicks uses complementary colors. Let's look. Oh, what else can we find? Gold and blue. I got red, yellow. What are red and yellow on the color wheel? Oh, if they had used blue, red, yellow, and blue, that would be a split complementary. I got yellow and blue. But the Steelers are a good example. Look at this. I got red, yellow, and blue. So let's just narrow it down so I don't have to crop it out. Steelers logo. That's not the original. Okay. I want the red, yellow, and blue. Copy image. Okay. So now if I go here, I got the Steelers, and they are triadic because you can see red, yellow, and blue are right across from each other. So they're a triadic color scheme. So what other team logos? I'm looking for one that has a lot of the same color or similar colors right next to each other. The Wolves. I got dark blue, I got light blue, I got navy or blue. So they may be monochromatic, but I'm just going to count those as analogous color scheme right next to each other on the color wheel like these. Okay, split complementary is the only one I'm looking for. Two similar colors and one opposite. What is this? Yellow, red, and green. I got red, yellow. Wait, red, yellow, green? I may say that's close enough to be split complementary. So it looks like the Minnesota Wild would be that team. Okay. So what I'm looking for is the best examples of these just by team. So if you're absent, sorry, you got to do it all on your own. But if you are here in class today, you and your team can work together and try to get some examples. Your team will get 4 points if you have great examples. So do your best. And this is our way to explore and practice with color and color combos so that your design won't look ridiculous like my outfit.